At this point, I really don't know who's more responsible for this movie, Zack Snyder or Joss Whedon, but at this point, I don't care. Just thank you. Hey movie fans, so I just saw Justice League and I was super excited, super pumped for the past few weeks. I finally got my excitement up. Saw some of the reviews that this movie was getting and that kind of scared me a little bit. Watched it today, just now finished. I'm so glad I saw this movie. This right here is the DC movie I have been waiting for years. It is not perfect, but it gets what I wanted out of a DC movie the best. I'll get to both the good and the bad, but as a whole, I really like this movie a lot, and that's so reassuring to me because it's been a rocky road lately with these DC movies. Really love Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, restore my faith in the DC franchise, and this just keeps it going. Alright, let's get into this, the good and the bad, because this movie is far from perfect, but it sure as heck is enjoyable. So the pros, my big issue with DC so far has been the portrayal of a lot of the characters. I wasn't a fan of how they portrayed Batman in Batman v Superman. Really wasn't a fan of how they portrayed Superman. I love the character of Superman. Superman is a larger-than-life character, and he's an icon, and I don't think we've really seen a great version of him in a movie since Christopher Reeves. That is, until this movie. Superman is back. Like, the real Superman that I know and love from the comics that I've wanted for a long time. But it's not just Superman. Everyone in this, hero-wise, feels right. It's just nice to feel like, yeah, these are the characters I know and love. There's not a disconnect. Like Batman and Batman v Superman, I don't know who that was. I don't know what that was. It didn't feel like Batman to me. This is Batman. Visually, it looks like Batman. Character-wise, it acts like Batman. It is Batman. You see Superman, he's back. I'm not gonna go into what happens with Superman, but he acts like the Superman we've wanted since Man of Steel. But then you also have the new guys, like Flash. It's still early in Flash's career, but I like Flash a lot in this. I like Aquaman a lot, even if it is essentially just Jason Momoa playing Jason Momoa. I don't know if there's any difference between Jason Momoa and Aquaman. Cyborg, I really liked him a lot. And Wonder Woman, she just kept up the greatness from the Wonder Woman movie. The characters feel like the characters that they should be, and that to me was the biggest takeaway of this. Of the story can be a little flawed, it can be a little rushed, but the characters, the ones that we care about, the reason we read the comics, the reason we stick with DC through all the bad movies, is because we know eventually they'll get it right, and it all comes down to the characters that we know and love, and they nail the characters, so that makes it, for me, easy to overlook everything else that may or may not work for this movie. But we'll get there in a second. Besides the characters, the score is amazing. Danny Elfman, I had no reservations going into this. I'm not his biggest fan, but the score's kind of amazing, especially in a couple key moments. Up until this point, in all the DC premieres that I've seen, everyone's just kind of, I don't know if I just saw it with a good crowd or if the movie just generates that kind of reaction, but there's a couple big moments in this that finally people cheered. People cheer in Marvel movies in big moments during premieres. There's a couple moments in this that people genuinely cheered, and it just felt right. That's the energy we should have had all along. It feels, I won't say course correction, because everyone's been saying that, but it just feels how it should have been all along. Another excellent thing in this movie, and this is probably more of the Zack Snyder elements, is the visuals. Now, the CGI is far from great. We'll go into that more in the negatives, but some of the imagery, like Batman over the gargoyle, or certain other images, just feel like they step right out of comic book, and it looks amazing, and it's awesome. I loved also, another great positive about this, is the team together. Oh, and they're together. Holy crap. It's the Justice League on screen. It's just so cool. You go back to your childhood. Some of the aesthetics, Flash's suit, I wasn't a huge fan of, still am not. But you can't take away that at the core, the character is there instilled in personality. It's so awesome just to see them work together, and you're just going, oh, it's the Justice League working together. It's just so great and awesome. I also appreciate that there's a lot of Easter eggs and references in this movie that I thought would feel shoehorned and out of place, but actually kind of flow in the movie. It's weird to say, but I thought that there would be certain characters that appear in this that would just be there to set up other movies. However, their inclusion feels like it doesn't detract from the story. They feel like they're warranted in the story, which is kind of nice. However, this movie is far from perfect, but it's still enjoyable. So what are some of the negatives of this movie? Well, it is 2 hours, so the whole first half feels very, very rushed. You're just like, okay, we gotta get things organized and stuff together, so you're hopping around a lot. And certain characters, like Aquaman and Cyborg, you get some detail about them, and they'll probably get fleshed out more in their movies, but they just kind of feel like they're there. It's like a weird analogy, but the new Power Rangers movie focused on the 5 kids, but 3 out of the 5 kids had significantly more screen time and backstory than the others. So whether that was just because they are the more popular or their toys sold better, that's kind of how it is for Justice League. Obviously, Batman and Wonder Woman, and probably Flash, those guys get a lot of the attention, whereas Aquaman and Cyborg are there, but they don't get the time that they deserve, as well as some other characters, but we're not going to go into spoilers with that here. I may do a spoiler review, but don't hold me to that. Another major negative, this is probably my biggest negative of the movie, is Steppenwolf as the villain. To put it honest, he looks awful, and he really does suck. He's just there, more or less, to just be an intermediary threat, to just kind of be, I'm here to wreck stuff. He's not the best, but at least he's better than Doomsday, I think? I don't know. Eventually DC will get their villains right, maybe. But yeah, Steppenwolf looked so bad, and that was a major problem through most of this movie. Is reshoots and CGI the reshoots were blatantly obvious at times, and the CGI for a lot of this movie was not very good. Steppenwolf was the worst, but there are other times that the CGI just stood out like a sore thumb, to the point of I don't typically try and find bad CGI. Bad CGI found me in this movie. A lot of it was not very good. But the bad CGI, the lackluster villain, and the rushed pace in the first half didn't really bother me because I was invested in the characters that I've grown up with and love so much. Just seeing them all on screen together and acting like the characters that I've always wanted them to be, but have not been up until this point, especially a certain Blue Boy Scout, who is the real MVP of this movie. When he arrives on the scene, it just feels right. It's just great. Yes, Justice League is flawed, but it's still an amazing time. It reminded me a lot of the animated series episodes. A little rushed at times, action heavy, but yeah, still had the charming characters, the quick wit, which is very entertaining for a lot of this movie, and just a very fun, enjoyable time. Yes, Justice League is flawed, but as a DC fan, my heart is more than happy. So as a whole, I'm happy to give Justice League an 8 out of 10. I'm very curious as to where this is going forward. I love the characters and I want to see them more, both as individuals and as a team. I'm very optimistic about the future of DC films. They're still finding their footing, but as a fan, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, especially if they follow the trajectory that they're on right now. But what do you guys think of Justice League? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you're seeing and want to see more, subscribe to the channel, or find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, Uncharted Media. Stay sharp, movie guys and gals!